I'm going to show you how to work a 3-color wave stitch. I'm using Plymouth Yarn Encore in 3 colors. I'm going to be using 704 Desert Rose, 702 Purple Dusk, and 701 Glacier Gray. Of course, you can work in any colors, any 3 colors you want, but it looks best if they are somewhat contrasting, so you'll be able to see the waves as they develop. To begin with, I'll start with my first color and chain a multiple of 6 plus 2. I'm going to leave a nice long tail. I like to be able to weave that in later. So and I always want to chain loosely. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do another repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. So that's 20 stitches. I'm going to go back and count and make sure that I have 20 chains. I don't count the slip knot here, and I don't count the chain or the loop on my hook, just the chains in between. Okay, so I have 20 chains to start. If you want to make it wider or narrower, you just add stitches in multiples of 6 or subtract stitches in multiples of 6, as long as you chain a multiple of 6 plus 2. For my foundation row, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from hook. So not this first one, but the second one. I like to work in the back bump of the chain, so I'm going to fold that over, roll that toward me, and single crochet in that next chain. And I'm going to work into the back bump of all these chains across. If you prefer, you can work into the chain itself, but whatever you do, just be consistent. My instructions say half double crochet in the next chain, then double crochet in the next chain, then treble in the next chain. You can see that we're getting taller and taller. Each stitch is taller from single up to treble. I have to be careful not to split the yarn here. There we go. So there you can see it's going up, and now we're going to go down. So we're going to go double crochet in the next chain, half double crochet in the next chain, and then single crochet in the next chain. And you can see I've created a wave. It goes up and then it goes down. And we're going to do that all the way across. Whenever possible, I like to start reading my crochet instead of reading my pattern. Now that I can see that this sequence of stitches is short to tall to short, I can just sort of start to see how that pattern would develop. I'm not even looking at the pattern anymore. I'm going to do a half double, a double, then a treble. So I've gotten as tall as I'm going to get. Now I'm going to start stepping down by doing a double, a half double, and a single. Then we go back up again, half double, double, treble, back down to double, then down to half double, and if we're lucky and if we counted right, the last stitch is going to be a single crochet. So we've done our first row of waves, and you can see they go up and down, so that looks pretty good. But here's one thing I didn't do. I needed to change color on the last stitch. So I'm going to go back to this last stitch and do it again and show you how I'm going to change color. I'm going to go in yarn over and pull up a loop. But before I finish that last stitch, I'm going to end with 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to bring in my new color, and I'm just going to yarn over with the new color and pull that through to complete my single crochet. Doing that last yarn over and pull through 2 in the new color makes for a clean color change here. I am not going to cut my first color. I'm going to hang on to this because I'm going to need it again in a few minutes. We're just going to carry it up the side. That was my foundation row. Now I'm going to turn and chain 4. Now that chain 4 is going to count as a treble crochet, so that's the stitch that I normally would have put here in the first stitch of the previous row. So I'm going to skip that first stitch, and I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch, then half double crochet, then single crochet, then half double crochet, then double crochet, and then treble. And I want to stop here for a minute and show you what we're doing. In this instance, I started with a tall treble. It was actually a chain 4. And then I went down to a single and then back up to a treble. And what I'm doing is I'm filling in those shallow parts of the wave with tall stitches, and back where the previous row was tall, I'm making a short stitch. So I'm putting a short single crochet in my trebles, and I'm putting a tall treble crochet in my singles. And I'm putting a half double in my doubles and a double in my half doubles. Whew, that's a lot to say. I'm pretty much doing the same thing I did on the previous row. I'm going from tall to short to tall to short to tall to short, but I'm filling in the gaps from the previous row. So here I was with a treble. The next thing I would do then is a double, a half double, and a single. Of course, you can follow the instructions as they're written, but I really find it's a whole lot easier to crochet if I just start reading my fabric, and then I don't have to be a slave to the pattern. I try to go off pattern as fast as I can, as soon as I can understand what the stitch pattern is doing. As I reach the end of the row, I'll do a half double, a double, and then I'll end with a treble crochet. But I need to change to my next color. So to change to the next color, I work the treble until I have a yarn over and pull through 2 left to do, and I'm going to grab the next color in the sequence. Do a yarn over, leaving a nice long tail that I can weave in, and pull through those last 2 stitches. So now I've done a nice clean color change to begin my next row. I'll turn, chain 1, and now I'm going to do the same thing. At the end of the row, I'm going to put a single crochet in the top of my turning chain. Go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I also need to change colors here because I'm changing colors at the end of every row. But see all these yarn tails and long strings I have hanging? I haven't cut my yarn yet. What that means, because I'm working with 3 colors, is that I have this next color in the sequence waiting for me. So I can just carry it up loosely, do a yarn over, and pull through 2. And I have a long float here. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can avoid having quite such a loose long float, but for now, that's what we're going to do. I can pull down a little bit on my working yarn here and here, And there I've done my color change, and the color I needed was waiting for me. And when I get to the other end, the color I need is going to be waiting for me over here too. So I'll turn, and I'm just repeating rows 1 and 2 for pattern. So if I've forgotten where I am, I can see that I'm on the 4th row. So I've done a setup row, row 1, row 2. It's time for me to start row 1 again. But even if I didn't know that, I would be able to look at this stitch pattern and say, okay, on the last row I went from tall to short. So now I need to start this row with tall, which means 4 chains for treble crochet. And because that treble counts as a stitch, I'm going to put my next stitch into this stitch, and I need to start stepping down to get down to here. So that would be a double crochet. So I'm not even looking at my instructions anymore. Then I do a half and then a single. So I'm putting a single and a treble, and then it's time to go back up again. And I'll do that all the way across, and I'll show you what happens when it's time to change colors at the other end. Here I am finishing this row, and I want to show you another trick about changing colors. I need to do a treble crochet, and before I finish my treble crochet, I'm going to be changing colors, and the next color I need is here. However, by the time I do that tall treble crochet, there's going to be a long float. If you remember over here, we had a really long float. So I want to do something to keep that float from being so open here. Now, I may not care, because I could be going back and doing some finishing along the edge, and it won't matter to me that this float is here, because I'll be covering it with something else. But if you wanted to include it or incorporate it a little bit more along the edge, what you can do is, as you finish this treble crochet, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, I can simply cross the yarn that I want to carry up the side over that working yarn. So it's going to lift the yarn up. I'm not doing a yarn over, I'm just crossing it over and letting it go on top of my working yarn as I finish that treble crochet. Now here I am at my last yarn over and pull through 2, and this is where I want to change colors. So at that point I'm going to yarn over with the new color, which I carried up the side, and change colors. So now I may have a little less of a strand there, and I could have done it even sooner. Let me show you what that would look like. I'm going to do my treble. I'm going to go in, I'm going to cross that yarn over my working yarn before I pull up a loop of the new yarn. And you see that snags it back there, and then I'll finish my treble, except when I get to the last stitch, I'll yarn over with the new color and pull it through. And there it has even less of a long float. It's snagged up and caught up in the base of that treble crochet. Then I'll just turn, and I'll show you one more row. I'm starting with a single crochet there. I can tell that that's what I need to do. I'll just do this row all the way across and show you what happens at the other end. Here we are near the end of this row, and I have a lot of tails and a lot of yarn that are starting to get tangled here a little bit. So I want to stop every now and then, even though it's a bit of a pain to deal with these 3 balls of yarn. It's a whole lot easier than trying to weave in ends at the end of every row. So I'm just going to stop and untangle a little bit by moving my yarn balls around. And it's worth doing this about every 4 rows maybe, just to keep you from getting way in over your head where you just can't stand it and you have to cut the yarn. So here I am, I'm a little more straightened out. Now I'm ready to do the last stitch of this row. So I did not carry that yarn up the chain 4 as I showed you before. So I'm going to work my last stitch into the top of the turning chain. It's a single crochet. I go in, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then with the new yarn I'll yarn over and pull through 2 to change colors. And that's it. Just keep working back and forth, repeating rows 1 and 2 until the piece is as long as you want it to be. If you'd like more crochet instruction like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out the links in the video notes for other ways you can find me. Thanks for watching.